Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. It's the Bridge TV show, your compelling link in a changing world. As part of events marking the third anniversary of this administration and Akwa Ibom, and true to our character, we decided to institute this special series entitled In Just 3 Years. These are deliberate and conscious attempts by us to try to look at the achievements of the governor 3 years down the line in retrospect, and try to see if he has acquitted himself and if he has vindicated the over 1 million Akwa Ibom people that had faith in him and decided to make him their governor. And joining me on this edition of the series is a man who is a politician, body and soul. My guest has played politics from the local level to the state level, and he got to the center. It's not everybody that will become a pioneer publicity secretary of a party that has today become the largest in the entirety of Africa. It's not everybody that will be entrusted people to the extent of being sent to Nigeria's Senate. It's not everybody that will walk himself into the cerebral and robust business world and create and carve a niche for himself by rising to become the deputy chairman of a big time company, a big time airline like Anietie. By now you should know who my guest is, but in case you're still wondering, let me formally introduce to you and welcome to this program for the second time in our history, distinguished Senator Anietie Okon. Sir,
thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us again. Yes, sir. The last time we had an opportunity to talk, the entirety of the session was as fiery as it was interesting. I can tell you, as someone who ran the interview and as someone who left a phone number for people to respond to that series that we ran, it really caught some attention. And it's only necessary that we come back and look at some of those issues you raised and see if you have regretted in any of the things you said. Chief Godswill Akpabio is 3 years in office. What's your impression?
It leaves those of us who had great expectations nonplussed and speechless, because the tempo of his fulfillments, the tempo at which he has striven to keep his promise to the people of Akwa Ibom leaves us speechless. It's gone beyond. Shots like a meteor over and above our expectations.
Okay.
And we derive a lot of pleasure that not only has he vindicated our trust and our confidence in him, he's made us proud.
All right, let's look at the indices. Let's look at, for instance, which of the many projects he has embarked on, which of these policies thrust, which of the things he has done, endears you to him the most?
Where do I begin? You are asking us to move from an experience, an unfortunate experience of unkept promises, to a new, innovating era in which promises have been kept, not just in a particular direction, but across the gamut of basic expectations of the governed from those who govern.
Okay.
Is it in infrastructure? Is it in the foresightedness that has more or less defined the investments that the government has done publicly? So it's it will take a whole day beginning to lay out these areas of achievements. Let's take social infrastructure. Right across this state, new hospitals are being constructed. Some are even near delivery stages now. And it's not just a question of dumping a structure. You will find that there's been a lot of thought that has gone into it. Some are even near delivery stages now. And it's not just a question of dumping a structure. You will find that there's been a lot of thought that has gone into it. Hospitals that are being placed in strategic corners of the states that hitherto no thought of such services as far-flung dreams. Dreams that essentially could only have been inspired by the type of condition which medical people call cerebral malaria and things like that. So today you find that Akwa Ibom people, every passing day, because of the slate of achievements that they have been witness to, their expectations keep getting higher. They are today fired by the fact that here is a government which has translated challenges, have overcome challenges and translated the wishes of people into, realities. So, a common strain that is running in the state, and also amongst those who have the opportunity to drop into the state, is that so really government can work. So really government can work. Because in the past, the general experience, though sad, a sad commentary of the general populace, is that government has always been high on promises, but very low on deliveries. So it's quite an innovating experience. It is one that is every day inspiring our people to look to greater things. And I think and I believe that this is spawned essentially by the fact that people today see possibilities. They see possibilities in the fact that for the first time they are under, a regime in which the defining factor, the defining element that runs as a common strain throughout the exertions of government today is that the condition of the Akwa Ibom citizen can and is being improved upon every day.
Okay, distinguished Senator, you've even attempted, and I think successfully, to compare and contrast, those governments and those that were before it, now passively, and I want us to check on that as an issue. Let's limit ourselves to when democracy actually came back to Nigeria and gained roots. That's 1999. Let's look at 8 years let's look at on the one part, and let's look at 3 years on the other. Are there similarities? Are there contrasts?
Perhaps the only similarities begin and end with the dean, the bustle and the dean that herald every electioneering program. Every, within the democratic calendar. It's just the noise of electioneering, and during which you find the politicians. We promise heaven, and we deliver in the end hell. So that's just the difference. Here,
that's a similarity.
That's where, no, it's not a similarity. The only similarity is all the bustle and being more or less you find characterize electioneering. Okay. That is where the similarity ends. After that, the difference is almost like the difference between day and night.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Now, you are a politician. You always have been, and you don't get tired of remaining so. You got to a stage in your political career when the people of there were about 9 or 7 government areas that make up your senatorial district, entrusted their mandate on you. You went to the Senate, you represented their interest for the period it did last. Now, you know what it means when a politician says empowerment. Within the confines of a politician's definition of the word empowerment, would you say Chief Godswill Akpabio has also vindicated himself, has also acquitted himself and vindicated those who entrusted him with their votes?
Yes, more than adequately so. It depends on the perception that we talk about when we talk about empowerment. It does not end within the narrow prison of providing for individuals to be comfortable. Empowerment is that you are initiating a complete re-engineering of the social structure of society. What could be better empowerment than that children are provided the opportunity of quality education, that the society, the citizens can look forward to quality medical services, that they can expect, to live within an environment in which services are made available, whether it is water, the supply of water, whether it is the supply of electricity, constant electricity, or acceptable transportation facilities. Here you have seen that there has been a massive, uncompromising commitment to providing first-class infrastructure in the area of transportation. I had earlier talked about the development and the construction of infrastructure within the social sector, that's hospitals, and right across the state you have found that the new mantra is that no child is going to be left behind. The sum of that empowerment, that is the real empowerment. The sum of it is that at the end of the day, the society, the citizenry, would have been so how would I put it? Would have been so lifted that in all situations, in all conditions, in facing challenges, they will be in a position to acquit themselves because they have been so, they have been so facilitated. They have been given what will make them acquit themselves. They have been empowered via education, via the modernizations that are going on here. That it only grows from that point. We're talking of empowerment for the entire mass rather than, the narrow prismed empowerment
of a select few.
Of a select few. That is the area. And that is, as far as I'm concerned, the definition that counts.
Okay.
Because it is not rocket science. Because we have precedents to point to. Great societies have become great because their people have been equipped to acquit themselves in all manner of situations.
Okay.
From the welfarist principles that were that reigned and held sway in post-war Europe, to the managed capitalism that was used to ameliorate the deficiencies of, extreme welfarism, which, of course, were necessary. They were a necessary antidote to the general poverty that was a consequence of the war in Europe.
Okay.
And it is only, it follows, it is at the end of rationalization that if the majority of the people have the opportunity and the windows, of acquittance via the public policies that are aimed at improving the citizenry, then at the end of the day, it is that capacity that is spread across the greater number of people rather than the select few that will yield an egalitarian society, a society that we would ordinarily say has evolved into some measure of greatness, where there is, what is governance about? Showing concerns and caring for the large majority and ensuring that there is cohesion in achieving the goals for sustenance of that same majority.
Okay. All right, distinguished Senator, I'm always swept off balance by your philosophical and analytical response to issues. Now, there's something I want to follow up on what you've just said. It looks to me that by what you've said so far, we can see the governor on the one part as a statesman and on the other part as a politician. Now, as a statesman, he's concerned about the next generation, but as a politician, he must also be concerned about the next election. Now, let's go back to the issue of the select few. Does some kind of apathy or indifference to the sensibilities of the select few, is it not possible it could tantamount to disaster close to when the elections are coming up?
What is the strength of the select few?
Especially the kind of a select few have always been benefiting from the system.
How do they stand in strength, in comparison with the strength of the common will of the people. You have defined them, a select few. Let us even say there are 100,000.
Yeah.
How many voters are here in Akwa Ibom? The danger of pandering after the select few is that you run the risk of the backlash of the majority.
Okay.
And we have seen that happen in history. From the aristocratic, palaces of Middle Europe, the backlash that led to the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. That was the revenge of the common people. You have also seen it as recently as in Iran, where the Shah was toppled in spite of the weight of the backing of Western powers, was toppled by the common desire of the people for wider spread participation and involvement in the process of governance in their country. So everywhere, what happens has always been the risk of the backlash of the majority over the so-called select few. And don't forget that the definition of the select few falls into that into the timeless words of Mahatma Gandhi, that it will never be possible to satisfy the greed of a select few.
Okay.
No matter how bounteous the resources of a country, you can never satisfy the greed of a select few, because there can be no limits to greed. So you take protection, you take cover, you create a legacy like Mahatma Gandhi did by addressing the wants and the urgencies of the majority.
Okay.
And what makes up the select few? A handful who, either by the opportunity of time, relation, and chance acquaintanceships, you find that they try to exploit those links for their own benefit.
Okay.
And you find that the problems that confront the man who is sitting in a position to dispense these favors is that when he chooses to stand by the people, to stand with the people, to be part of the process for providing real service to the people, you would always expect that those who are in consequence robbed of the sweetheart arrangements that otherwise should be in place, always try to create problems. They try to destabilize the order.
Okay.
So it is not an issue. Back in Akwa Ibom, without doubt and without any question, we have a government that is strenuously striving to ensure that the condition of the citizenry is uplifted. And it is very clear also that there is a clear commitment and honesty of purpose. And that is why, the governor in Akwa Ibom also visited endearments being his forte today. That's his portion today. We've had the opportunity of chance meetings, going to inspect projects, and since these inspections are spontaneous and without notice, you can gauge right there the true and honest feelings of the people. I would like to take copiously from an article I stumbled into. It is written by one Chioma Obetie and published, published here by this. I think this is yes, by the Ekid Vanguard for Akabe. It's one of these sprout of papers and magazines that you find everywhere. I like to read from here. It says, Choma writes that I returned to Akwa Ibom last week to be confronted with the pleasant surprise of my life. Between April 2007 and March 2010, the state had undergone so much transformation. From Ibaka through Eket to Uyo, there has been a profound socio-structural engineering of the state. Prior to last week, I had thought Governor Babatunde Fashola of Lagos State was the ultimate miracle worker in a democratic enterprise, shorn of heroes. There is yet another hero, unsung and largely under-celebrated in Akwa Ibom. Then he goes philosophical. In the next place he says, how could so much have happened in a space of 3 years? Akwa Ibom then reminded me of the coastal towns of Zebulon and Naphtali, both bordering Capernaum, where Jesus dwelt after being tempted by the devil. Zebulon and Naphtali were communities thriving in primitive, fertile locations. They were in desperate need of a deliverer until Jesus came their way. They needed to experience the light of the gospel to fully appreciate the horror of their imprisonment in the belly of darkness. That was how the Bible captured the scenario in St. Matthew's Gospel.
That's it.
The people which sat in darkness saw great light, and to them which sat in the region and shadow of death, light is sprung up. True, the people in darkness have seen a great light. Akwa Ibom people, once fettered by underdevelopment and misgovernance, have seen a great light in the emergence of Godswill Akpabio, a lawyer, as their governor. Since my return to the state, I have seen the practical illustration of the words of the late English poet, mark this, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning, she once wrote, a man leaves clean work behind him and requires no sweeper up of these chips. In Akwa Ibom, Akpabio is leaving behind a rich slate of clean works. He is making a bold statement that when the righteous is on the throne, the people rejoice. He is redefining governance from the mundane paradigm which Nigerians have come to associate it with, the art of looting public till in the name of awarding phony contracts. Not so here, writes this Chioma Obetie. He says, not so here. In Akwa Ibom, Akpabio has turned the corner. He's fast fulfilling his part of the social contract, giving the people what he promised them in electioneering days and even much more with their money. It encapsulates the truth about our innovating experience in Akwa Ibom today.
Okay.
And it is not so much about what the individuals stand to gain today. It is what the generations after us will stand to gain, what they will inherit as our legacy. One of the things one of the telling and touching in some of the moments I've shared with the governor has been, it is infectious. You know, you can see it burns in him. He would wish that he had a magic wand to do this. You know, if he waves the wand, then you have 10 specialist hospitals in place. You have beautiful roads. You have schools. You have. So, we did ask in some close-up interviews. I mean, in close-up moments, not interviews. Some of us did venture to ask. Right? We can assume that a lot of the preference of the government today is to lay and develop first-class, you know, and enduring infrastructural facilities. What will be next? And his answer was straight to the point. He said the next will be to create jobs, because there is in place infrastructure to support industry. So we're looking forward that as we turn the bend, the next step where we are experiencing a situation where children are going to school. In another 6 years, the products of this policy will be available. They will become added to the manpower capacity of the state. And so the answer will be, the issue will be, how do we generate gainful employment? How do we deploy this, you know, emerging workforce? And as he rightly says, the focus, after ensuring that infrastructural development has reached the state, the next thing will be creating employment.
Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. It's the Bridge TV show, your compelling link in a changing world. As part of events marking the 3rd anniversary of this administration in Akwa Ibom, and true to our character, we decided to institute this special series entitled In Just 3 Years. These are deliberate and conscious attempts by us to try to look at the achievements of the governor 3 years down the line in retrospect, and try to see if he has acquitted himself and if he has vindicated the over 1 million Akwa Ibom people that had faith in him and decided to make him their governor. And joining me on this edition of the series is a man who is a politician, body and soul. My guest has played politics from the local level to the state level, and he got to the center. It's not everybody that will become a pioneer publicity secretary of a party that has today become the largest in the entirety of Africa. It's not everybody, people to the extent of being sent to Nigeria's Senate. It's not everybody that will walk himself into the cerebral and robust business world and create and carve a niche for himself by rising to become the deputy chairman of a big-time company a big-time airline like Anietie. By now you should know who my guest is, but in case you're still wondering, let me formally introduce to you and welcome to this program for the second time in our history, distinguished Senator Anietie Okon. Sir,
thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us again. All right, sir. It's safe to say that he has done 3 pages. He's left with 1. And you talked about negotiating the bend.
Yeah.
And I'd like to take you to the bend. Do you? Because I dare say I'm dazed. I'm surprised, pleasantly so. Is that the right word? No, I'm not surprised. I must say I'm happy the way you sound, because I had a chat with somebody the other day, someone who is not privileged to be so celebrated as a politician of note as you are. And he said, my concern with Obama Pabio's aspiration for 2011 is this: I don't see him having any problem with winning the general elections. But it looks as if those who belong to the select few we're talking about have succeeded in raising some phony apprehension in the system, trying to create the impression that it would be a little difficult for the governor to cross the first hurdle, which is getting the mandate of the party. And from the way you sound, it looks to me that that hurdle is a foregone conclusion. So let us get it squarely. Let's tell the people of the state, as someone who has played politics in PDP to the stage that you are, is there any hurdle on the first step of the governor succeeding himself in 2011?
I don't know what parameters people use. If governance is about providing facilities, ensuring that the money, the resources of the state are put to the use of the people of the state. And here, quite likely from what knowledge I have about governance, over 85% of funds accruing to the revenue accruing to the state have been deployed for provide, towards funding infrastructural and social facilities in the state. And we believe that the scorecard of the government is not on the margin. It is an A+ results card. Okay. And it only follows that having so substantially and significantly scaled the challenges of this moving the states, the challenges of governance, the challenges of serving the people of the state, I don't see what would form the issues that will provide even a feeble challenge, to his emergence in 2011 to start a second term. This is not based on sentiments. It is because he has earned it. Okay. He deserves it. And because the people of the state haven't tested the possibilities on their desires, they will brook. They will not. They will brook no risk of experimenting with an unknown fellow. With an unknown quantity.
No.
Barrister Boswell Fabio, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, has acquitted himself in the challenge, in the face of challenges of governance.
Okay.
He has acquitted. Sometimes I get pretty upset when he frets over, petitions and criticisms of people whose motivations are not in sync with the aspirations of the people. Sometimes you find, the type of irresponsible attacks, uncouth attacks. Most of them are born out of desperation. How do you blame, for instance, a governor of a state for the criminal activity of some misguided denizens of society? A woman is kidnapped, they blame the governor. Some have gone brazen enough to accuse the governor of sponsoring kidnapping, sponsoring terrorism. How do you rationalize? As a how do you rationalize the extremes of these issues? Here is someone to all available evidence of which we bear witness, striving, straining to build a good society, trying to create an utopia against all the odds of trying to provide a wholesome society, being the same fellow that will poison that society by sponsoring, the very base acts of criminality that you would dent. It doesn't add up as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
And it is a mark of the desperation of some self-anointed opposition. It is a mark of it's evidence of their desperation that they'll throw decency to the winds.
Okay, sir. You're still talking about some self-anointed oppositions in opposition in your words. Only recently, Senator James John Okon declared his intention to contend with Chief Godswill Akpabio for the office of the governor of the state in 2011. Are you swayed by such a declaration?
As far as I'm concerned, it borders on the preposterous. As a matter of fact, it has moved from the sublime to the ridiculous. I grant everybody their right to aspire. They can aspire for whatever it's their constitutional right. But here in Akwa Ibom, we have some family arrangements. So we have some convention that is held sacrosanct in Akwa Ibom, because adherence to that convention ensures for us peace. It ensures for us, the brotherhood that inspired the real founders of our nation, the Ibibio nation. The same spirit that made people as early, they were the earliest groupings of nationalities to realize that, just like God's will of today has done, to realize that the key to the future was education. And so, without let or hindrance, they picked some of the most promising of their sons and communally sponsored them to acquire higher education. That was the BBU Union. And our political arrangements have tended to build, to use those same principles of brotherhood as a springboard for the emergence of our society. Let us not worry about all the hiccups that we as a nation experience on the way. I'm talking of the nation of Akwa Ibom. The hiccups that were engendered by political instability, the interventions of the military, the whole cocktail of drawbacks that we suffered in the evolution of our society. But those principles remain. And for those of us who, from the beginning, I remember in an interview of this state, and I was the first person to boldly say that after the Uyo senatorial tenure, the next seat would be, yes, it will revolve to Ikotekpeden senatorial district. And we had done 8 years. We believe that what is good for the goose must also be good for the gander. And